Hey everybody, it's Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show. And before we get to this next video, I just wanted to tell you that if you are looking for a way to make some money, to get yourself into the green, get out of the red, hook up with me. It's very simple. Just go to ataboy.com, ataboy.com, and I will show you how to make some money with a low investment. And it's something I'm doing myself. It's not something I'm just hawking. So do it today. Hyperfund is the place. And again, ataboy.com. You can watch a little video that I've put together for you. You can watch some other videos there, and you can learn for yourself how to get yourself some cash. So let's do it, okay? All right, here's the video you actually came to see.
Great. All right. Well, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Aftershocks at AftershocksTV.com on the CMS Podcast Network. And joining us on this episode today, we got, three rising stars here in the LA underground metal scene. They're here to talk about their band Diabology and their killer debut release titled Nobody Believes Me. We've got Jesse, Jack, and Matt. Guys, what's going on? Thanks for coming on today with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this is like we were saying. This is usually we get maybe one or two tops, but we got three here. So as I go through these questions, guys, just feel free, to take it. Whoever wants to take these questions, we're just going to kind of throw them out there, and you guys just go ahead and pick it up. But first off, let's give the listeners a brief overview, really, of you guys. I guess your backgrounds in terms of how you guys, I guess, came together, considering the fact that you guys are. You're still a real young band, so go ahead and just give us a quick rundown of your guys' musical background and what initially brought the band together.
Okay, well, I'm Jesse. I am the front man. I sing and play guitar. And for me, it started with my parents, because both of my parents, like, back in their youth, were in bands themselves, in, like, rock and metal bands. And so, I mean, I, very much grew up in, like, a musical family surrounded by, like, heavy music. And when I turned, like, 7, I kind of had, like, an interest in that stuff. And so my parents enrolled me in the School of Rock program. And so I started learning how to play guitar and sing through there. And I spent, like, probably a good, like, 7 years or so in there. And eventually it just got to the point where I kind of got sick of the format, because they have you do covers all the time, which is, good to, like, start out. But eventually you want to, like, move on and create your own stuff. So after a while, I just, like, moved on from that and decided to form my own band. And the original lineup of the band is not the same at all as what it is now. But I met these guys through, like, various, like, I actually met both of them at, like, other Diabology shows.
Cool.
So yeah, that's my background.
There we go. All right, we'll go around the horn here. Jack, what about you?
Personally, I didn't start listening to metal until high school. Joe's here.
Go ahead.
Hey, Joe.
So I started playing guitar, and I really started listening to metal because I was trying to find new stuff to play on guitar at first. But I started getting really into it and started listening to a lot of different stuff. And I, like Jesse said, I met him at a show, and they needed a guitarist, so I filled in.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. All right, Matt, let's go over to you.
I started listening to metal at actually a very young age. It started because of my dad. Every time when my dad would drive me around, like, to some places, he would always play like Slipknot or Metallica, and that's why mostly everyone knows me as, like, a huge Slipknot fan.
Cool.
Because of my dad. But I ended up meeting Jesse through this teacher of mine, like an after-school program. And, it was a cool experience. We jammed out. It was pretty awesome.
Awesome, man. And now we got Joe just jumped in here. Joe, what's going on? I was asking the guys just to kind of give just a little brief overview of your background in music and metal and what brought you together here with Diabology.
So I kind of started listening to metal freshman year of high school, so about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
And it was basically because I'd been listening to like a lot of more popular music, I guess. And I was playing bass, but the songs were like way too easy. So while I was trying to find more difficult music, I started listening to like Metallica because of my dad.
Okay.
And so because of like the way Cliff Burton played bass, it got me really into Metallica and metal in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd met the band when, well, my parents knew Jack's parents. So when they needed a bassist, my parents found out about the band through Jack's parents and like told me about it.
Very cool.
I'm just gonna say I want to hang out with all y'all's parents. Jesus,
I know, right? I know.
We have pretty cool parents all around. Yeah,
it sounds like it. Yeah, man. Awesome, man. Well, like I was mentioning earlier, man, before we started, I mean, me and Chris, man, we're both huge fans of this album. I mean, Chris sent this to me last week, man, and he's like, "You got to check this out." And I did. And I was like, "Dude, yeah, this is great." And then, like I said, well, what I was struck by, more than anything, is really the kind of metal that you guys are playing. I mean, I know you guys call yourselves a thrash band, and you know the sound definitely has a foundation in thrash, no doubt. But I think it's much more than that, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of groovy parts on the record than most traditional thrash bands have. I mean, for example, the song "Judgment Day." I mean, that to me is more of a bouncy feel than a speedy feel to it. "Seas of Eternity" and "Lost Viking" almost have like an old school, hardcore like Chromax sort of guitar sound to it, and the track "Diabology," man, has really, as you guys were talking about Slipknot before, reminded me of sort of a Slipknot type of tune. So talk a bit, I guess, about your guys' influences in terms of how you came to create this sound, of metal, which definitely has an older feel to it, stuff that me and Chris kind of grew up on, rather than probably, it doesn't sound like a lot of stuff that most guys your age are playing these days. So what really had you guys sort of create this sound? Was it something that you did intentionally, that you want to sort of incorporate different subgenres of metal in your sound, or it's just sort of how it came out when you guys got together and jammed?
Yeah, so thank you for noticing, actually, because that's kind of a big problem with us, is we always like have to, for like different like submissions and whatever, like list like our specific subgenre. And I'd say like we usually say like thrash or blackened thrash, because I think that's like most accurate for most of it. But really, we have just like a ton of influences from like all across the genres. Like I know like what you're saying about classic metal, like obviously what I was saying about my parents, they played me a lot of like the classic like Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, all that. But then kind of on my own over the years too, I've kind of branched out into some more modern stuff like Trivium, Mastodon, Slipknot, stuff like that I have fallen in love with. And yeah, I would say when I'm writing for Diabology, there isn't really like any one genre I'm going for. I'm just trying to make something that's heavy and good. And so yeah, a lot of our stuff kind of branches into like black metal or groove metal or death metal or whatever. So yeah, I'd say it's just like a lot of different influences that just come out.
Sure. Well, the one and what's interesting to me anyway is that it doesn't branch into what metal wise a lot of people your age listen to. There's no Killswitch Engage overflow that comes into your music that I heard, which so many bands fall into that category of trying to be the next version of Killswitch or bands like that, or emo core or whatnot. I love the fact that you guys kind of are rooted a little bit in classic metal, but and I love the black metal elements, especially vocally. I love the fact that you kind of didn't just follow the Exodus model. You kind of took it into some new directions, because that's rare these days for new bands at all to find, a new element that they grab as their own.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add about the influences. I'm not the only songwriter.
Yeah, I mean,
no, I agree with. Oh, sorry, Jack.
I was just gonna say that Jesse and I write a lot of the songs like together or like jointly. So we'll like bring in songs and then finish each other's songs. And I think that gives a lot of room for each of our influences to like come together, and that like creates a lot of different sounds, because we both have similar backgrounds but varying influences when you branch out from there. So I think that might be what you're hearing.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like all of us, like all listen to metal and we all listen to a lot of the same bands, but also there's a lot of times where our interests in what bands we listen to will differ. Like I listen to progressive metal a lot more than I assume the rest of the band does, and stuff like that, as I think adds to the fact of how like our music is so different yet rooted in similar things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys look, and I don't want to stick completely to influences. I certainly want to move forward, but I just have one thought. Do you guys stick to the classic bands as your influences, your Metallica's, Megadeth, Slayer, blah blah blah, or do you look also to the newer, the most recent wave of thrash like bands, the Havocs and the Warbringers and stuff like that? Do you look to them as you know, as influences to what you're trying to do?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I take influences from like, you know, I take influences from all around, like everything I hear. Like I said, like Trivium, Mastodon, those are two like really big influences on me. But yeah, I mean, just any band I like, really, you know.
As far as like newer thrash, I've been listening to a lot of Havoc lately. Actually, Conformicide's become like one of my favorite albums.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Definitely. Yeah, when it comes to thrash, I just really listen like to mostly old school thrash metal.
Sure, okay. Definitely. Well, guys, and I'll start with Jesse, since I think he's kind of the ringleader here, I'm guessing. Talk a little bit about how the songs themselves come together. Do you start with a riff, or do you start with a vocal idea, or how exactly do the songs come together?
So yeah, all of our songs start with riffs. As mentioned earlier, both Jack and Joe also do some of the songwriting a lot of the time. But usually one of us will come in with a song that's like a few riffs, like at the very least, like a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, like, you know, sometimes more, sometimes a bit less. But we always just come in with our riffs. And then like Matt comes up with the drum part behind it, and then we just all learn those riffs, and if we feel like it, you know, needs more, which a lot of times we do, then we'll all just go and kind of work on it individually and then come back and compare ideas, really. And yeah, the lyrics and the vocals usually don't come until the song is like basically complete. That's usually the last thing to come, because I write pretty much all the lyrics, and I like a lot of the times to kind of like, I don't know, get like the vibe, I guess, of the song, so that the lyrics can kind of like suit what I feel like is going on musically.
Okay, very cool. You know, one of the biggest challenges I think, you know, a young metal band like you guys, you know, have these days is to try to, you know, get notoriety in such a saturated market online, where, you know, every band's trying to, you know, the world's trying to stick out. And it almost has less to do with, you know, really how good the music is. It really has more to do with how well you're able to promote your music, which obviously, you know, especially now, obviously with the pandemic, but even pre-pandemic, a lot of that, most of that's really done through online platforms. And that's something you guys have been able to do with. I did notice that you had the track Defiling Innocence. It made it to the top of Kerrang's American Access Spotify playlist. So talk a bit about how you guys were able to get that track on that list. And once you did, how big of a boost or of a reaction were you able to receive just from having that one song on that list?
Okay, well, truth be told, I would love to say that, you know, we just like, you know, worked really hard, whatever. But the truth is we paid for a PR campaign. We hired a good friend whose name was Curtis Dewar. And he had a lot of press contacts, and he had a contact at Kerrang. And so the contact at Kerrang heard our song through him and put it on the top of the playlist. But he does not do all our promotion. We did pay him for a little while we were just like boosting the album initially, but we do most of our own PR. And really, sorry, I'm getting ahead. But to answer the second part of your question, the Kerrang playlist gave us a pretty good boost. Defiling Innocence has like I think like at least 1,000 more streams than our like second most streamed song. So it definitely gave us a good boost, and it gave us some exposure. So we were very fortunate to get that. But yeah, just in general, just talking about like promotions, anytime, whenever. It's really just about being determined. You just gotta like go on like, you know, Facebook or Twitter or wherever and just start searching, like look for different radio stations like across the country, different magazines, whatever, and just write them and write them and write them. And we get like maybe like 10% get responses. But still it's 10%. And
10%,
gotta just keep growing it. And you know, the more you know, like radio stations or whatever you get on, the, you know, bigger a following you have and the easier it is to get on more radio stations and magazines. So it's really just about, I mean, I hate this word, but just about like grinding it out, you know?
No, I mean, I mean, and that's, you know, I think that's great that you already get that you're going to have to, you get what you get what you put into it. So you pay some money. That's what you're going to have to do sometimes. Pay a publicist or pay someone to help you out, or then, like you said, and grind it out, you know, not just online, but obviously, you know, once live, you know, music comes back. I mean, that is really obviously, you know, the way it's done more so today than it's ever been. And, you know, speaking of live shows, you know, the other thing I was going to say was, you know, in LA with the underground LA metal scene, I know it's a lot of it's really forever been linked with the infamous backyard parties that always take place in Los Angeles. I mean, it's taken place going back decades, even with Van Halen back in the 70s. Considering that, you know, in LA, I mean, if you want to play, say, classic venues like the Whiskey or the Roxy on the Sunset Strip, you know, it's all pay to play. That costs a lot of money to do, obviously. So that's, you know, really tough for, I think, a band like your guys, you know, in the situation you're in right now. Are you guys, what's your, in terms of live music, what's it like, you know, for a band at your age with your, you know, with your generation in terms of where do you guys play shows? I mean, do you guys still do backyard parties, or are there venues off the strip that, you know, that really helps, you know, say generate a larger fan base for you guys in that area? Because, you know, LA is so huge. You know, one of the hardest things about playing LA is if you're not playing on the strip or close to one of the more populated areas, it could, you know, be tough for a lot of, you know, fans to get out and be able to see you if you're playing off the grid somewhere, say out in, you know, East LA area, or, you know, up in deeper parts of the valley and so forth.
Yeah. Well, first of all, fuck pay to play.
Yeah. Good.
You know, we do not do any pay to play things because, yeah, we just on principle, really. And even going beyond principle, I feel like we're a little bit heavier than the general, like, you know, Whiskey, sort of the like Sunset Strip type thing. I mean, there are certain shows that are heavier, but I would say like the majority are not quite our scene. But yeah, no, we will really play anywhere that will have us, as long as they aren't gonna, you know, make us pay and then take even more of the revenue and then make extra.
Yeah.
But yeah, we played a lot of backyard shows. In fact, I met Jack at a backyard show.
Okay.
But yeah, no, backyards are great. Yeah, we will play anywhere. We've played bars, we've played fairs, we've played in the parking lot of a church once.
Okay, awesome.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's really just
multiple times.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really just like not being super picky, just playing anywhere that'll have you, and just like taking advantage of whoever's there. Because, you know, sometimes there are only like 5 or 10 people, but that's still good if you can sell a CD to 5 people. That's still, you know, good. It's building up the following. I mean, like what I said earlier, hate the word, but you gotta just like grind it out, really.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no doubt.
One thing I'd add to that is, since we are all under 21 right now, that is definitely a big obstacle for us finding places to play, because a lot of venues in LA require the band to be 21 to come in, just because of their liquor rules or whatever it is. So we like have been trying to find every all ages venue that will let us play.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, then even when you do find an all ages venue, though, how willing are they to let a metal band in instead of, you know, some shitty pop band or R&B band that's, you know, safer?
Well, yeah, that is also a problem. Is yeah, there's a lot of venues that just don't want metal, but I know I'd say there's actually a surprising amount of like genre flexibility within LA. Like we've played with like punk bands, we've played with indie bands, like we've been on just like the weirdest, most mashed up lineups. But I don't know, I feel like it's kind of an LA thing, but it's people are, I feel like, a lot about just like free expression and whatever, like, you know, that hippie bullshit. But I feel like a lot of people are like not really like, you know, conforming to genres here. And so it is somewhat easy, I'd say, to just like get into most places, like regardless of genre.
Sure. Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, when guys like obviously me and Chris were growing up, I mean, you know, hard rock and metal was so prevalent even within mainstream. You know, I was on radio, it was on TV, and so many, you know, metal bands were, you know, on major labels. I mean, these days, you know, not so much. I mean, a lot of music fans in your guys' generation, I mean, they prefer to learn how to use a turntable and buy some SoundCloud beats and loops rather than, you know, picking up a guitar and learn how to play some chords and create, you know, cool riffs. So, I mean, considering, you know, with you guys, consider that metal really no longer is like, you know, such a, you know, I'm not going to say it's not a dying, you know, genre at all, but it definitely doesn't have, I would say, the mass appeal it once had, especially amongst younger, you know, music fans. How difficult is it for you guys to really create sort of a scene within your area, you know, where you're able to find other bands and musicians to play with, you know, to create, you know, like your own scene where your music can flourish? I mean, you guys, are you going to have to maybe go outside of like, you know, the area and maybe go to like Orange County or San Diego in order to make something like that happen? Or is there enough fans, you think, and musicians in and around your part of LA that, you know, it's definitely able to happen? And once you, maybe, as you said, maybe once you turn 21 and you could play some of those other venues, it'll open up a lot more doors for you. Do you think that's...
Well, no, I mean, we do want to, like, you know, tour and stuff because it is important to like reach out, but I would not say there's any like, there's definitely a strong metal community in LA. Like I would even say that it's an oversaturated market, like even just like within our little area. But there's a ton of bands and there's a ton of fans. There's like a bunch of production companies. Like there's definitely a strong metal scene out here. We don't need to like totally make our own. But at the same time, it is important to like branch out and reach different areas because there are only, you know, so many metal fans in any given county or town or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it is important. We are trying to, you know, branch out to different places. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's like a lack of a metal scene here in LA.
We definitely have to go like an hour or 2 hours away sometimes to like get shows with other people to spread out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
LA is like a really big city, and it's very populated. So no matter like what like you're interested in, whether it's heavy metal, whether it's something completely not music related, there's a good chance you could probably find a community of people who share your interests just because of how many people there are here. Sure. So that's probably why
I agree on that
community of metal bands.
Right.
In there.
Yeah. Well, for you guys, is the audience your age? Is it my age? Is it somewhere in between? I mean, what is the age of a thrash type metal band audience these days?
I mean, there's definitely range. There are people our age and there are people your age. I would say the general, like, I'd say it's most popular with like early to mid 20s. But yeah, I mean, there are, you know, a lot of like scene veterans, and there are a lot of, you know, just our friends from high school and whatever who are on the scene. It's very varied. It's cool to see so many people like, you know, coming together and one big happy family and all that.
Nice. Well, here's one quick one that you know, especially with what you guys have to deal with because you're under 21. I've been in this. I'm 52, and I know this business as well as pretty much anybody to know what a bunch of scumbag fucks there are that are basically running the business, whether they're managers, whether they're club owners, whether they're promoters, etc. And they will see a young band like you guys and think they're going to absolutely prey on you because you haven't been around the block yet. So how do you guys avoid getting absolutely fucked over by these people? I mean, do your parents step in, or do you just talk to other musicians to learn the tricks of the trade, or do you just kind of do it and take your lumps as they come, or what?
Wait, I know. It's actually funny you bring this up because literally, like last month, we got an email from a record label from Spain who was like, "We love you guys. We gotta have you. It's so great." And then they were like, "So that'll be a $3,000 advance, and then we will take 50% of the profits." So yeah, we didn't go into that, but there are definitely a lot of scumbags. I'd say our parents do help a lot, like with that, especially because even then we were like, we're 90% sure this is a scam, but like maybe we're missing something. And so I know we had one of Jack's father's friends who was a music lawyer check it out for us and confirmed that it was total bullshit. But
that me and Jack both have lawyer parents.
Yeah, that does help.
That helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
About that contract, to be clear, they wanted an advance from us to them, which is like really unusual.
Yes.
Yeah.
They wanted us to pay them $3,000 and then give them half of our profits. But yeah, I mean, our parents have a good amount of experience, so they kind of tell us when something's wrong. A lot of times you can just tell. It'll just be like kind of weird and like scammy, and just, there's just something in the phrasing where you're like, this dude is not being totally straight. Like something's evil here. Yeah. Right. Exactly. But yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. So far we've been pretty lucky. We haven't fallen into like anything that was like too much of us getting screwed over. But yeah, I mean, we have like, lost money on certain things and like certain shows and stuff. And I mean, you kind of just have to like take it as it comes when that happens and just, learn and move on.
No doubt, man. Well, for people that are into this heavier style of music, the name of the band is Diabology. The name of the album is Nobody Believes Me. And Jesse, since you're primarily the talker here, I'll ask you to go ahead and throw out the plugs to where people should go to keep up with you guys and get the record or download it or what have you.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we are, as he said, Diabology. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just Diabology Band. Or our Twitter is actually Diabology 8. But yeah, most platforms are Diabology Band. We're also on, all the streaming like Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, all that. And also, we just released an exclusive like sneak peek type single for the second album that we're working on. And that is only available on Bandcamp and SoundCloud, but it is totally free to download. So go there, check out the new stuff. And yeah, please follow us because we are working on that second album and we cannot wait to bring it to you because I think it's going to blow the first one out of the water.
Very awesome. Cool, man. Well, one more time, the name of the band is Diabology. The name of the album is Nobody Believes Me. And guys, thanks so much for being on Aftershocks.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you so much for, supporting the underground scene because it's really important, especially these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, man. Yeah, we always do that here. I mean, it's something that we wish more people would do. But like I said, we'll definitely have to have you guys back on once you get that second album coming out.
Yeah, we'd love to be back. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Or I'll be open. All right, guys. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Aftershocks. For more episodes, go to our website at www.aftershockspodcast.com. Visit us on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for more news and information on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe, listen to, and review all episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast platforms. For your music listening pleasure, visit our website or go to www.shockwavesradio.com For all comments and questions, please email us at info@aftershockspodcast.com.
All right, everybody, another great interview right here on Aftershocks TV. And before we go, just want to remind you one more time, make sure you get over and subscribe to the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com. You can watch, you can listen, you can subscribe to everything that we do, not only us, but the Classic Metal Shows, Shockwave Skull Sessions, Talk to Me. It's all there, one site, get 4 great shows, never have to do anything again but be entertained. So check it out, cmspn.com, cmspn.com, cmspn.com. Until next time, folks.